All right, let's make a multi-panel job from a single photo. I said that weird. All right, let me go open up a photo. There's one that I actually want to do for my garage wall. It's this one. So I took this image here in Navarre at the pier in Florida, and then I added the little border and the text there. So we're going to turn this, as you can see, this is 45 inches wide by 25 inches tall, this image is. Okay, it says that right here. And we're going to put this across 8 6x6 tiles. I think that's what it's going to scale out to anyways. So let's just get right to it. First things first, let me show you something. Go to the laser processing tab when you open up the version 1.4 for the first time, and then go to operator setup. Enter your machine information, select which lens it is you have installed, whether you prefer to run your machine in millimeters or inches per second. And that's important for the self-learning settings suggester, so it can suggest to you properly millimeters per second or inches per second, and other reasons. Everything in here is setting up so you have less data entry to do throughout the software, making your life easier. So save defaults, and every time you open the software, there's going to be a pop-up just like that one that asks, is everything still the same? So if you switch lenses, go ahead and change the lens so the software will work properly for you. Excuse me. All right, so we have our image open. First thing you do is you're going to head over to the multi-panel tab, and you're going to launch the multi-panel studio here. Now, the tiles I'm going to use, the physical tiles, they're ceramic and they're 6x6. These are the ones from Home Depot. And they're not very flat on the bottom, so you got to sand them down if they don't sit flat. Otherwise, you're not going to get a good result. The Lowe's Satori brand, those are 5.91 inches, and those are manufactured much better. So I'm going to put in the value 8 here because we're going to use 8 of those tiles and see how that looks. Okay, good. And I suppose I'm going to use the fit mode to fill, and we'll fill the space, the whole tile. And then I'm going to put a gap of 1 millimeter between them because when you put the tiles next to each other without grout, there is a little bit of a space. So this compensates for it when it breaks up the image for you. And I'm gonna want a slim frame. You'll see the different options here soon. I'm gonna press slim right now. Excuse me again. We just got over strep throat in the house. Fortunately, I didn't have it, but I do have a cough. All right, so now if we go over here to assembly mockup, and if you press slim again, it will zoom in. And you can see it's a butt joint right now. And we can change that in the framing. And in the job cost calculator, there's a spot where you can add paint and coatings and stock for frames material and whatnot. So I have in there 1x2s from Lowe's cedar, and I'm going to do a miter joint, and that will update here to a miter. And then my stock length is actually 96 inches. And I'm going to set the waste allowance to 1% because I can cut pretty accurately. We don't need it pretty crazy. So we can go to the cut list, and this is exactly what we need to cut to make this. And with a miter saw, because there's going to be a miter. If you don't have a miter saw or can't cut a 45 degree, put it to butt, and then it'll work nicely for you that way. So now all that's left to do is everything's down here now. Apply to main app, and that's going to take all of this data. Let me scroll down and make sure everything's right. Okay, now you can see 343 DPI. It pre-filled that in from our onboarding questionnaire. and then 1.5-inch lens, it filled that in. Now, painted ceramic tile, this is a material in the material database in the job cost calculator where you add your materials. And you can see I have all these materials I've added. So painted ceramic tile, and you can add the cost of the tile, which they're 10 cents. And then here's my paint brand. It's Montana. I think it's Arsenal. It could be Assault. It's Montana something, and it's gloss black. That cost me 10 bucks, and you can put in like how much coverage it has, you know, how many milliliters are in the can, and it figures out the cost of per tile coating and tile itself. Now, recipe mode, if you're using anything but wood, you're using general. Anything but wood. If you're using wood, you'll use wood. Okay? So, but if you're using wood, use the photorealistic wood process, this one here. Okay? This is for tile. Maybe I'll go rename these. Tile and everything else. And it has aluminum, granite, and whatnot. And then there's different dithers you can choose from. I like Stucky. And again, 343. This is LPI now, which now matters in the software. So match your LPI with your DPI. Tile pop, we'll go over this like after I run step 4, how you used to process an image. When it was done, that's what you get. Now with this, there'll be a slider in the laser processing studio where you can slide it afterwards and you can watch how it changes your photo. It'll give you more blacks and whites, or will tone it all down. But it's all one slider and does quite a bit to the image, but just in one slider, so you're not getting too carried away with over editing a photo. So I'm going to press apply to main app because everything's good now. And up here you'll see that it's going to do that like so. And then now I'm going to send to laser processing like so. And now I'm going to run step 4, process the image. Now this button here is handy because not only does it send all of this to the laser processing tab right here, but it's also going to populate everything. And this is the size image it's going to have to be to make it go over 8 tiles. So it did all that for you. Here's all your setting. Here's that pop slider I was talking about. 1.5-inch lens and in our materials. Okay, so then all we would have to normally do was press this button. But since I added this button right here, it's going to do that from here. So you can see it running now. And it will look a little funny right here because it's a weird zoom level after it processes. We'll later see it in Lightburn and in the main screen of the UI here. So the cedar frame is going to be 26.87 inches by 14.79, and it's going to cost me 1 stick, so it's going to cost me about $7 to make a frame for this. All right, so now that is done, and now we're going to export the package. When I press this button, it's going to send this image to the self-learning settings suggester, and it's going to print out an overview of what your settings should be. And when you go use those settings in real life, if you need more power or less power, you'll come back here, press give settings feedback, and you'll update the self-learning system to what worked with your machine. And then it's going to start learning your machine and suggesting from there. Right now it has all of my data in my machine, what it's learned here, but it will pick up from there and start learning yours. All right, so export package. Now it's asking, does your material turn white when it's lasered? If it turns white, yes, it's a white tile painted black. When we laser it, it turns white. So we need the whites of the image. So we are going to use a negative image. Yes, it will turn white. Now it's going to show us our report. And here is from the settings suggester, 223 millimeters per second, or 8.8 inches per second at 15.8% power. I have a 100-watt laser and a 1.5-inch lens in there. Okay, so if you want to see this, we'll open the settings suggester. And you can open this anytime in the software, but here's our material, our lens, the tile size, the wattage of the machine. Now I'm going to press analyze, and it's going to ask you, does it turn white or black when it's lasered, which is why it asked that previously, because it's automatically doing this behind the scenes. So yes, it turns white. Now here's all of the metrics of this specific photo, okay? All of the metrics of that, which is how it learns. It learns every single photo, okay? And then it interpolates and suggests to you the best setting. So here's, after I calculated, here's the speed and power it has already suggested, because it did that automatically. So now I'll export again. I'll press yes, and then I'll continue export. And then we're going to export that over to here. And we'll name that demo, I don't know, 34 or something. Then after this exports, we're ready to go to Lightburn. And then, but first we're going to go to the job cost calculator, and I'll show you guys how that works, okay? It's done exporting. Now we'll go to the cost calculator, and we can scroll down here. And you can see there's no live current job detected yet. It's waiting for a job. So if we press refresh, oh look, now it knows we have a job that's 8 tiles and everything about it and the frame size. So we're going to launch the full suite now. And here is the current job intake. This is live, so the software knows when you're working on something what you're doing, whether it's a single tile or a multi-panel job with a frame. So here's our material library. I painted ceramic tile. They're 10 cents each. There's actual size of 6x6. This is the markup on them. This will make it about $35 per tile. Coating and paint library, you can add if you'd like. Frame stock, I have the 1x2 cedar from Lowe's in there. Cost $7, 96 inches. And your electricity, kilowatts per hour rate, machine wattage, labor rate, and a fallback markup. Now here you can see no quote calculated yet. And here it's populated everything our job has. Tile count, the brand paint, and everything. Because that setting suggester, it needs to know what paint you're using too, because if you change the paint brand or the type, the settings are going to change a little bit. So the setting suggester is ultimately going to be a really amazing tool. Now, first of all, I'm not going to calculate with frame first, and it's going to take about 30 minutes to build that frame. Now here, I want to load a customer, so I've populated myself in here for some dummy data, because you can save customers in here in your shop defaults and whatnot. Now we're going to go quote the job, and it's 8 tiles, okay? They cost 42 cents to paint, roughly, in paint for 8 tiles, and there's 10 tiles total, okay? So it's actually 52 cents per tile it costs. Maybe it's not that much paint. Maybe it's like 22 cents or something. I'll have to recalculate the milliliters, but I think it's pretty close. It's pretty close on my single tiles. So this job would be, it would charge $30.93 per tile, and it'd be $247 for the 8 tile job. Now if we want to frame that, we'll come down here, we'll recalculate, and it would be $346, and now it's calculated the frame and the costs and whatnot. Now we can export job documents, and we'll export it to, we'll make a new folder. Demo 34. And now we'll go take a look at that, and we'll extract our zip. It's extracted out from for the job. Okay. And now here's my folder for that. Cut list, it exports. an invoice, and a quote. Eventually, this system is going to grow into a job-aware bookkeeping system. Now let's go over to Lightburn, and this is where it's going to get really neat. We'll press Control O because we are going to open here's our Lightburn file. So if I change this to all and then go to panels, it makes an SVG and all the panels as individual. Okay, but then what's really neat here is here's a Lightburn file. Now normally you'd have to import all of these individually and then go apply settings to them all. But the software has calculated a proper perfect setting. This is perfect for me. And it's auto-populated all of the data entry that we would normally have to do times 8. And here is our result. Just go burn it. And when you get to, see this zoom level right here? This is like getting into the detail of what makes up the image, okay? And right here, where it starts looking like a photo, this is how it should look as a completed project. Colors and all, it should be very close to this result here. And that's it. I'll make some more videos on going over other things that I've put into here, like the hybrid SVG. And let me show you the laser processing studio here real quick. So it's going to ask you which material you're going to use. We'll use painted ceramic tile. And here's the studio. Here's some quick buttons for you to automatically process certain ways. And here's, you just enter your size, your DPI, which material you're using, which lens. Remember, anything but wood. Your dither, and the pop slider. Thanks for watching.